Rita, sometimes people come to therapy because they're doing things that they're not happy about. It's maybe impacting on their lives or their relationships, maybe drinking or gambling, or just not doing the things that they really want to do, and feel a bit ashamed about that. And they, often can feel like, why can't I just stop this? Like, it's not working for me. I'm not happy about it. And in schema therapy, one of the ways we think about that is what mode is doing that behavior? What mode is maybe trying to help you in some way? And that comes out looking like a problematic behavior, which could be the detached self-soother mode. I'm Ruth Holt.
And I'm Rita Younan, and welcome to 7-Minute Schemas. We are both advanced level schema therapist supervisor trainers, and we're here today to talk about the coping mode of detached self-soother, which we conceptualize as being an avoidant way of coping.
Yeah, so for a lot of people, we all in life have our hobbies and our pastimes, now things that are just downtime and relaxing. But when we're in a detached self-soother mode, we might be doing things that might be relaxing, a glass of wine, or even just scrolling on the internet. But these things start to take on a life of their own, because they're not just a hobby, they're not a relaxing thing, they're actually running from distress. And so I might be running into something like gambling or eating or shopping or sex or even self-harming. I might be running into those things to get away from those core schemas and the pain of those schemas.
Yeah, to try and create some kind of comfort or soothing, if you like, and I guess that's one of the things with a detached self-soother. We're trying to work out what's the need that they're trying to get met when they go into a detached self-soother that can be manifested in some of the coping responses that you just described at the moment. And I think one of the important things, though, Ruth, is that we all have the capacity, I guess, to be in this coping mode. We've all got the capacity to, have a Friday night where we're just going to have a few drinks just to shut out the world, or maybe, eat some junk food or something and just binge on Netflix or whatever it may be. But one of the things with the detached self-soother is the lack of control associated with it, that's the only way I know how to comfort and soothe myself. So we really want to try and build, I guess, in some of these individuals, a repertoire of coping and soothing themselves in times of distress.
Yeah, that's right. And if you think about the idea that it's a detached self-soother, or perhaps even self-stimulator. So I'm kind of detaching from my distress. So therefore, one of the things we want to do is start slowing this mode down and starting to ask those questions of, when I started to use that behavior, what were maybe some feelings that were happening underneath that? Was there some loneliness or some boredom, or maybe a need for fun? What was the kind of need sitting under there, and the feelings, and starting to build our healthy adult mindfulness, our ability to notice and be curious rather than just judging those feelings or feeling really distressed by them, kind of being curious what's going on and thinking about, what is my detached self-soother trying to help me with?
Yeah, absolutely. And I guess, one of the things that you could also do in those kinds of situations when you're looking at when people have kind of, utilized a detached self-soother is maybe doing a bit of imagery, kind of getting a sense of what was the precipitant feeling or emotional state, usually some kind of vulnerable child mode, that then led to the detached self-soother. And where have they felt like they in the past, where they had to go to something to soothe themselves because perhaps there was no one there to teach them how to get comfort and soothing through another, for example.
Yeah, I remember one person telling me that when they were alone at night in their house growing up, and their parents were not around, they were out gambling and doing their thing. They felt so scared in the dark, and so one thing they learnt to do was go and open the fridge door, because it was light, and it was sort of exciting for them, and they started eating. And for them, that was the origin of their detached self-soother, that now as an adult, when they were feeling frightened or alone, they ran to that detached self-soother that gave them something. And often these substances do give us something, right? They kind of help in the moment, and that's part of, I guess, unmasking our detached self-soother, is saying, what kinds of things are you promising? Are you promising to take away all the bad feelings? Are you promising to have fun for once? What's the promise in my detached self-soother? But then what's actually the result that it ends up leaving me with at the end?
Yeah, and usually there are other modes involved, aren't there, when it comes to detached self-soother? And we talk more about that in our advanced techniques workshop and how detached self-soother is kind of, and those addictive type of ways of coping are usually connected to other modes.
Yeah. And the other, I guess the other, maybe slightly different thing that can happen that brings rise to a detached self soother or a detached self stimulator is where people haven't had a lot of limits, where I kind of just act on my own instincts, or they might have a high need for stimulation and a high need for adrenaline. And so this side kind of goes, all right, well, I can get that, with maybe stimulants, I can get that with kind of doing things in this state that I wouldn't do in my healthy adult state. So there's sort of that other need sitting under there. So we kind of want to encourage people to be curious rather than get their critic out and start judging themselves. Be curious, kind of look at the origins. Where did I learn to run? What was I running from back then? And maybe am I still running from some of those similar things now, and into substances, into behaviors, when actually I've got different choices available to me as an adult.
Recall having a client actually just exactly as you described that, that kind of stimulation or kind of the need for stimulation was never really regulated at home. There were no limits. Even as an adult, having a, meth addiction was still rationalized by the family. And so it was really hard for him to set limits on this behavior when people around him made it okay.
Yeah, so you often get these little twin modes that go together, don't you? There's a detached self-soother or stimulator and a little impulsive child, and we'll be talking more about that one in future episodes, because I think you're right. It's really, we really want to pull apart what were those unmet needs, what was the origin of this behavior, so that we can start to get change for people who can feel very stuck in a difficult situation. So that's our 7 minutes, Rita. Feel free to look at the link for those who'd like to have further training on these topics and others. And we'll see you next time for another mode that we're looking at in this series.